Hello super friends and welcome to DC TV Talk, and in today's episode we're going to be breaking down and reviewing Supergirl Season 4 Episode 5, otherwise entitled Parasite Lost. And before you continue with this review, make sure you've seen this episode as it will be filled with spoilers. So, just to get it out of the way first, we actually have Melissa Benoist back on set filming for this episode. Obviously, Episode 3 and Episode 4, they were so lacking in Kara because of Melissa Benoist not actually being there. And this episode, actually, surprisingly, also had a lack of Kara, even though Melissa was actually there, filming this episode, actually on time. But besides that, let's dive into this review. So just to get this guy out of the way, I'll talk about Parasite. Parasite was interesting because obviously this was a villain we had in Season 2 that they're kind of recycling. Obviously now Parasite has taken the form of Agent Jensen, who's like that rogue DEO agent who we've had this season. It was alright, he kind of goes around, he takes a few powers, like the shape-shifting one was quite interesting, he takes Kara's powers at a point, and it's basically all building to like a massive crescendo, but it's just, the problem with it is I find the actor who plays Jensen to be quite weak, to be honest with you, so it makes the whole thing just seem a bit flat and a bit pointless. So when it all comes down to it, you have this guy who's going through all these changes and all these powers, and he's just kind of acting so dry and bland about the entire thing, so it's not really viable. So, I feel like with a better actor, this may have been able to play off a bit better, and, just the idea of reusing a villain like Parasite, it's a little bit lazy. So Parasite, I mean, he wasn't like the main thing this episode, there was like more other like important stuff going on. This was more of like a side story, to be honest. So it's not too big of a thing. I just found it a bit annoying that they chose this particular actor to become Parasite. Now, the opening scene is quite fun. It's, it's just kind of like fluffy Supergirl fun where we see all the characters just kind of, interacting and socializing together. Now, they are so heavily hinting at this Nia and Brainiac 5 relationship. This is the scene where Nia gets actually introduced to all the other characters, and we basically see her notice Brainy, and then she kind of starts playing with her hair and starts being a bit fidgety. And then Brainiac, obviously just being the AI that he is, just starts, going on about how, he found her, he eventually did find her, he comes with all this information, then she's like, oh, well, why didn't you call? So, they are hinting at this relationship, which is an interesting choice. I'm not quite sure if I'll buy it, just because they haven't spent enough time together yet. It kind of seems more like a crush thing on Nia's side, but I'll have to wait and see how it develops. It's definitely an interesting choice, because obviously it's not Brainy and Kara, it's going to be Brainy and Nia. So it's interesting. I'm just I'm just waiting to see how it develops. Now, one of the storylines from this episode is the stuff with James, Lena, and Benjamin Lockwood, and basically James and Lena, they go to this event that's kind of like this, event for upper-class kind of media people. Obviously, James being the head of the DEO, or Catco, sorry, can get into that. And while they're there, they come into contact with Ben Lockwood, who's also there, and obviously he kind of knows that James is Guardian, as does everybody, and basically, Ben Lockwood was saying about how Guardian is, representing, he's a hero for the, pro-human movement, and obviously Guardian doesn't want to be a part of that, so he's basically saying, look, Ben, look, just don't do this, don't stop including me in your propaganda, I'm not a part of this, I don't want to be associated with you people, I am my own person, I stand for equality, blah, blah, blah. Which is fine, and these scenes between Mehcad Brooks and also Sam Witwer, I think were really good. I think these two actors are really good, so to see them kind of going at it with each other was definitely fun. And their scenes was definitely interesting, and I have to say as well, this was probably the first ever episode of Supergirl where I actually kind of bought James and Lena as a couple. I actually kind of felt like there was something there, there was some energy there. I've never really felt that before. It always felt like a bit of a weird decision, especially in Season 3 when they did it. It was just like a really out of the blue thing. It's like, oh, we need a relationship because Kara and Mon-El are gone. Oh, James and Lena. But in this, it actually felt legit. I actually bought it for the first time, so that was quite interesting. Now, one thing that I was pondering over in my head when watching this episode was, shouldn't James be in jail right now? Didn't the media say that, oh yeah, we're giving James immunity, but, if he goes out as Guardian again, he'll be arrested? He went out as Guardian last week, and he's still walking the streets. Have they just forgotten about this? Have the government just gone it's fine? Or, what's going on? Now, it'd be fine if, they say, oh, well, last week when he helped out, he did save a lot of lives, and he helped out in the situation. That would be fine, that'd be a valid excuse. But they didn't actually say that. No one's officially said that, so, we don't actually know as an audience if that is the case. So it just kind of seems like lazy writing, and they've just forgot about it. So, I'm thinking James should probably be in jail, but I guess he's not. So I guess we're just going to carry on as normal. Now, the main storyline going on in this episode revolves around this healing alien who goes by the name of Armaday, I think that was his name. And I have to say, the actor who played Armide, Adam Levi, was actually really good. I thought he was great in this episode. Like, his performance, some of his monologues he got to do were really good. And his character was quite interesting. He kind of comes out of this kind of thing where he's healing aliens. You see him actually heal a boy in a wheelchair who could walk again. And you actually see that he wants to heal the human heart. He doesn't agree with all the discrimination and things like that. He wants aliens and humans to live in ultimate harmony. And I thought he was actually a really fun character. And again, very well performed by Adam Levi. And I thought that all this storyline was actually quite interesting. Obviously, we had Parasite trying to nick the amulet that he was wearing that gave him his powers and also his life. And we saw him take that, and it was kind of like a race against time before he died. Luckily, they did manage to save him. I hope he comes up again. I hope they, given the fact that he did survive, I'm hoping that he comes through and we get to see him again, because he's a really fun character. And like I say, I like the actor who plays him a lot too. And also, just everything else with this storyline was actually really well implemented, because it brought it into the main story. It allowed, this setup for Parasite to come in. This then brought James out as Guardian. Like, James did go out as Guardian again in this episode, and we got to see him come out, and he got a cool little moment. And I thought the way, all these storylines actually did tie together, which I found very impressive. Now, this storyline also allowed the Kara and Naya relationship to actually develop a bit more, because obviously we have been promised that Kara and Naya are going to have a very sisterly bond in this. They're going to become very close as characters, and I feel like this was like the first step towards that. Like, this truly felt like, instead of being mentor kind of role, this actually felt like friends. Like, they actually felt like they were companions in this, instead of just being a mentor and a mentoree. They actually felt like they were actually companions here. So I feel like this is the first step. And also with this, there was a scene that David Harewood, I think David Harewood's a great actor anyway, but he was really good in this scene. Like, he's really tearing up. It's the scene where you actually think that Armide is about to pass away, and he's really emotional. He's really crying. He's talking with his daughter. And again, I thought all that stuff was quite interesting as well. The stuff about his daughter, about how, her mother was basically lying to her about her father, saying that, oh, he's an absentee father, he didn't want to see you, blah, 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 it was a one-night stand. Whereas, in fact, she just was broken, she was broken-hearted by him, so she didn't want her daughter to know about him. And I thought that was quite interesting as well. Definitely something a bit different. I didn't expect that. And definitely a bit of a twist on what it would normally be. So I enjoyed that as well. This main storyline was actually quite decent, and I really enjoyed it. It gave a good backdrop to everything else that was going on. And we also had the stuff with Alex and the new character of Colonel Haley in this episode. When Colonel Haley first shows up, you think she's going to be this really antagonistic force within the DEO, but then it is actually recognised in the episode as well that she's not really. She's just, maybe she has a bit of a hard face, but in reality she's quite supportive, she's quite a, decent boss sort of thing. How that changes and fluctuates throughout the episode is obviously, you've all seen it, so you know what's going on here, but I did like the scenes between Alex and Colonel Haley. I thought Alex was great, as always. It kind of goes, I kind of mention this in every single Supergirl review every week, but, Alex is really good. I think Chyla Lee is fantastic, and she is just continually great in every single episode. And, I know a lot of people will probably say, oh, what did you think of her kind of big speech towards Jensen in this episode? And you know what? I actually thought it was quite good, and I know that may come off as contradictory, given how much I slam Supergirl for its kind of, over elaborate speeches. But it actually worked for Alex, because in this instance, this was someone who she knew, who has basically turned evil, and she's saying, look, you're not the person I trained. I respect that person I trained. There's a good person in there. Like, it was viable for Alex to do that and to feel that way and to have that reaction. So it made perfect sense for Alex to have that speech. If it was any other character, I wouldn't have bought it, but because it was Alex, not only because of Chyla Lee's performance, but also because of Alex's connection to that character, it actually worked for me, and I think it actually played off quite well. Now, the ending of the episode did confuse me a little bit, because there was this scene where you see James actually phone Ben Lockwood, and Ben's kind of in, that underground base of his, and he's, basically saying, oh yeah, James, you want to talk? For you, I've got all the time in the world, what do you want to talk about? As he stares at his Agent Liberty suit. Now, I don't know what this is about. I don't know what this is hinting towards. I don't know if these two are going to team up, or James is going to get caught up in this. It seems like maybe James has realised something about Ben, and he's sort of either trying to get in with him, or, trying to get in with him in order to expose him. I don't quite know what is truly going on here. I guess we'll have to wait and see. It was kind of a cliffhanger, so I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I thought it was quite fun, because like I said, I think the playoff between James and Ben is actually quite fun. It's quite interesting, so I do want to see how they develop and how they continue to grow together as characters. And it, actually giving James something to do is really refreshing, because we haven't had that, pretty much since the inception of the show. So it's actually nice that James is getting quite a lot of moments this season. He's actually getting quite a lot of things to do-ish, so I'm liking that. And I like that Mehcad Brooks is getting some, material, because he's a great actor and he's such a nice guy as well. So I'm really glad we're getting that. So we'll have to see how this ending actually develops. To to kind of wrap this whole review up, I have to say, this episode of Supergirl was actually alright. I actually thought it was okay, you know, given how much I slate Supergirl, how much I've hated it this season, bar episode 3, you know, I think episode 1 was terrible, 2 was terrible, 4 was terrible, you know, this episode, it was actually quite decent. I thought it was alright. There was nothing in this episode that outright annoyed me like Supergirl usually does. I actually was perfectly happy to watch this episode, you know, I wouldn't mind watching it again, I wouldn't mind, you know, talking about it. You know, I think it's actually a decent episode of Supergirl. Had quite a lot of elements, although it did kind of jump all over the place. Not in terms of quality, but in terms of, you know, the different storylines. It jumped about quite a lot. The fact that all the storylines tied together was actually quite interesting, because Supergirl never really does that. The CW shows in general don't really do that. You know, you normally have like 3 separate storylines, but in this, you had 3 separate storylines, but they were all connected. So that was quite fun and refreshing. We don't normally get that. So I enjoyed that. So overall, not a bad episode. Not a bad episode at all. But what did you guys think about this episode? Make sure you tell me all your thoughts about Parasite Lost in the comments down below. So thank you guys for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like. It'll help me out a lot. And share this video with anyone and everyone you know who loves DC TV, and get them to join the community. And as always guys, please subscribe for all of your latest content on Supergirl, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Arrow. And with all that said guys, I hope to see you again in my next video.